Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first in our mini series of Lunch and Learns focused on security. Today, we will introduce you to our partners at PAX 8 who have designed the 3 tools that will be shown this month. IRONSCALES is one tool, Sentinel-1 is another, and LastPass. The presentation today will be all about IRONSCALES. IRONSCALES is a self-learning email security platform to stop tomorrow's phishing attacks today. And IRONSCALES provides email protection at the mailbox level. It's not a perimeter defense. They do use other options besides IRONSCALES to look at things in the perimeter. PAX 8 takes advantage of a decentralized crowdsourced network to prevent, detect, and remediate phishing attacks in minutes or seconds versus other products, hours or days. Utilizing AI, artificial intelligence, that is designated to deliver mailbox level and business anomaly detection, IRONSCALES can give your company greater protection where it is needed most. This tool is a comprehensive, people-powered email security platform. The self-learning platform helps where your email security is most vulnerable with post-delivery protection, detection, and remediation. Now you can defend against the full spectrum of phishing threats when and where they are most likely to cause damage at the mailbox level. The presenters this month will be David and Mason from PAX 8, and I will be fielding questions possibly during the meeting and for sure at the end of the presentation. So I will change and now make Mason the presenter, and he can show us all the exciting stuff that IRONSCALES can do to help control our email security.
Awesome. Thanks for that intro, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. Again, my name is Mason Grandy. I am a security solutions consultant at PAX 8. So I cover all of our security line card. Sorry, I usually have a nice fancy background here. I'm used to Teams, so I couldn't get it working for go-to meetings. So I have a view of my living room here. But also want to introduce my counterpart, Dave O'Garrick. He's the account manager for CodaBears. So I'll be running most of the presentation today, but just want to introduce Dave because he'll be sitting with us as well. I don't know if you want to say a few words.
For having us today for this lunch and learn. I hope everybody has something interesting to enjoy during the presentation, or maybe some popcorn and a soda. It's going to get pretty exciting here with this next generation technology. You know, we'll try not to be too dramatic. I don't think you need to bring out any, you know, tissue papers to wipe your eyes or anything, but you know, PAX 8 is partnered with our friends at CodaBears. We're an extension of their business, and we enable CodaBears to provide to your clients and your, you know, internals as well, best of breed cloud solutions for this topic of this month, which is security. I think you'll find IRONSCALES very powerful and unique. And thank you again for having us. And Mason, I appreciate you leading the presentation here.
And I will mention that we do use it internally.
Yep.
So do we at PAX 8. Among our 1,000 employee base that we have here. I don't know how many total users we have on IRONSCALES throughout our ecosystem. Mason, do you have any idea? But PAX 8 has 20,000 partners that are technology providers, and IRONSCALES is one of the top 3 most deployed solutions of the 80 solutions on our line card.
Yeah, I don't have an exact number, Dave, but I'm with you. It's definitely one of our most popular, one of my personal favorites. as far as its technology. There's a number of email security vendors that we work with, but this one definitely leads the pack as far as popularity and in my opinion, feature set. IRONSCALES is, as Karen mentioned, a automated phishing detection and response platform. That's kind of a mouthful, so we'll break down exactly what it does. My goal for the meeting today is to kind of explain the current phishing problem. I'm sure many of you have already experienced this. You know, the email security space today, what traditional email security looks like, how IRONSCALES has pioneered a new approach, and why we believe it to be an essential part of any security stack or protection plan today. So I can say anecdotally from my experience as a security consultant, phishing is probably the #1 issue or problem that my partners will come talk to me about and looking for solutions. And this is the solution that I always lead with because it's very effective at stopping phishing attacks and removing them out of your environment once they've been detected. So I'll kind of dive into it here, just a few slides, and then I actually want to get into the demo and show you the platform itself and hopefully leave some time at the end here for questions. Can you guys see my screen all right at the moment?
Yes.
Steve, I see you. Okay, awesome. So I just want to start it off. I'm sure many of you already know this, but let's just start with a quick definition. What is phishing? I think that's an appropriate place to start. And phishing can be defined as it's a type of cyber attack where a target receives a fraudulent email, or it can even be a text too, looking to get sensitive information. It could be credentials, it could be login information, it could be banking or financial information. And attackers typically do this by impersonating a reputable organization or even potentially a person within an organization. So a common use case we'll see is people impersonating a CEO or a CFO or a CTO. You may have seen these type of attacks in your organization. So that is phishing. Just to want to give you some quick examples here. IRONSCALES had these, and I thought they did a good job. Here's one of a tax return receipt, right? Someone's posing as the IRS. They've included, there's not a lot of information in this email, which piques users' interest, gets them kind of curious, and then there's a view document now link, which might lead them to a fake login page to harvest credentials, or maybe there's a malicious virus that it would download. There's a lot of things that can happen if you are interacting with a phishing attack. Some key indicators here that it's phishing is it says hi there, right? It's not addressed to a real person. There's not a lot of information here. The email contents itself, very vague, very brief. Those are all indicators that this might be a scam or a phishing attack. And then here's another one. So instead of impersonating or attempting to impersonate a organization, this would be an actual user. So here we have johnsmithtrading@gmail.com. That's not a legitimate email, but someone is posing as an IT staff within an organization. Again, another example doesn't address an actual user, just says Johnson Construction webmail user, right? That should raise red flags. And then there is, you can see listed here, like a sense of urgency that's been included in the email. And so that's typically the tactics you'll see attackers using is sense of urgency, or they will combine that with authority. That's often why people pose as C-level. Hey, this is the CEO. I need this ASAP. Get this over to me. These banking, this routing number, or something of that nature, are telltale signs of phishing attacks. And these type of attacks are on the rise. Even my time here at Pax8 as a security consultant over the past 3 years, I've seen a huge increase in demand. A lot of customers are now approaching their technology partners and looking for solutions. Either what they have in place today doesn't work, or they don't have a solution in place specific to combating phishing attacks. But we're seeing year over year a doubling of the amount of phishing attacks. 70% of organizations have reported they've been victim to a advanced phishing attack, and the median financial impact is roughly $250,000. Now, that's not going to happen to everyone, but I hear stories all the time in my role about people changing payroll or changing banking information. They've been paying the wrong people. They had people wire money to a fraudulent, organization outside of the country. It happens all the time. And so having a solution in place, investing up front in the security, ultimately will save you money in the long run, because the problem's here to stay. It's very easy to conduct this type of cyber attack. All you need to do is go out and create a Gmail address and spoof a display name, and you can phish an organization, and it can be very lucrative. So there now is and IRONSCALES really pioneered this approach. I'm going to talk about traditional email security and anti-phishing solutions. IRONSCALES pioneered themselves as an anti-phishing solution. Unfortunately, traditional email security solutions, we're still seeing about a 25% penetration rate against advanced phishing attacks. And so IRONSCALES saw this opportunity in the enterprise space where they started, and they combined both human intelligence and AI to create a solution, to create a platform that is very effective at identifying and removing phishing attacks from an organization, preventing, identifying, and removing. And so we're going to talk about some of these features today, but they include malware and URL scanning, in-mail banners to advise end users on suspicious mail. It's going AI-powered response, so using AI to scan emails, look at the contents, look at the language, compare that to known senders to look for spoofing attempts. It also includes training, so simulation and training of your end users to get them in the habit of looking out for suspicious indicators or phishing attacks. So again, we'll break these down in more detail. But I want to start real quick here with just a few slides describing a cloud email environment today. So many of you may be using Office 365. Here's an example. We have Office 365 and a number of users here. You can see a user at home, user in a coffee shop, user in the office. Essentially what happens is an email is sent. First it hits Office 365, and then it's delivered to the mailbox of an end user. With this configuration today, there's no email security in place, so you'd be wide open to any spam or phishing attempt that is sent. And that was a major problem. So there was a whole crop of email security products, traditional email security products that came up that can be considered what are called email security gateways, or email filters, or inline gateways. And these solutions place themselves in front of Office 365 as a barrier to the outside world, the outside internet. And they are in line of mail flow. So what that means is when an email is received or sent, inbound or outbound, it's always going to hit that email security provider first. So it would hit that email security provider. If it's clean, it's going to be released. If an email comes through and there is malicious content or it's flagged as spam, it would then be moved to like a quarantine. It would not be delivered to the end user. This has been the traditional way of doing email security for the past 10 plus years. And you may recognize some big names like Mimecast, Proofpoint, Barracuda. They all use this approach. And there are some benefits to a gateway, having a pre-delivery filter. But there were some key drawbacks or things that it does not do well. And the first is being able to identify advanced phishing attacks. As I'd mentioned, anyone can go out and create a Gmail account or an email account that has no sender fingerprint and attempt to spoof or impersonate an organization or a user. And especially if there's no malicious links or attachments to that email, a gateway is going to have a very hard time identifying that as malicious. It just looks like any other message that's coming through. It wasn't smart enough to be able to identify those. Furthermore, once an email gets through a gateway, I have no visibility into who else received that, and I have no tools to remove it. It either gets through or it doesn't. Once it's through, it's a black box. So the ability to identify and remediate suspicious mail or malicious mail is very difficult. So IRONSCALES pioneered a different approach. IRONSCALES integrated themselves directly into Office 365 through an API connection. And that provided a number of benefits. Number one, IRONSCALES has access now to mailbox behavior or mailbox heuristics. What that means is it learns the behavior of end users. Let me provide an example. Dave O'Garrick and I work together. We email each other on a frequent basis. As a platform, IRONSCALES, because it's integrated directly into 365, now has access to that information. And it can learn David as a trusted sender. So now if I get an email from David O'Garrick, but from a different email address or different domain, IRONSCALES is going to see that and recognize that as potentially suspicious. So it becomes much smarter at identifying these actors that are impersonating other users. That's one huge advantage. Second advantage is going to be the ability to actually remediate attacks out of the inbox and group them into a single incident. So if a phishing attack is found, either reported by an end user, I'll talk about how you can do that through IRONSCALES, or through the AI discovering that this is a phishing attack, IRONSCALES now can remove that phishing attack not only from one inbox, but every single inbox at your company. IRONSCALES will find that mail and pull it out. So the ability to remediate attacks is a huge differentiator with a solution like IRONSCALES, and they have pioneered this API-driven approach. So I want to dive into a bit more of the specifics here, and then I want to transition to the actual demo. I mentioned this already. So the first thing you're going to get with the IRONSCALES solution is what's called impersonation protection. And when you integrate when you deploy IRONSCALES, which takes a matter of minutes, it will begin to learn the behavior of all of your end users. They're trusted senders, and that's called mailbox heuristics, essentially the behavior. It then uses that information to identify suspicious or potentially suspicious emails that may enter your organization. And it will take the form of actual in-mail banners. So here's an example right here. Once you have IRONSCALES deployed, if you get an email, so they're looking for a wire transfer, right? And in this case, it was sent from IRONSCALES.com, which is very similar to IRONSCALES.com. Now, an end user may not notice that. And security awareness training your end users what to look for is going to be, very first step. But something like that is very hard to differentiate. And so IRONSCALES serves as that advisor to your end users by putting a big red email banner saying, hey, proceed with caution, right? Let's double check this. Let's verify that this is a legitimate request with whoever we should. So that's gonna be the first piece, using that self-learning platform to identify when there might be a suspicious mail and throwing those in-mail banners, okay? But that's just the first layer. Beyond that, you have what's called AI-powered incident response. So IRONSCALES, either through AI classification or the single click of a button, I have the ability to remove that mail out of everyone's inbox. And I'm gonna actually demo this live here shortly, but when an email is reported, either again by an end user or through IRONSCALES AI, I'm gonna get all the forensics. Codebears will get all the forensics on this piece of mail to better identify if this is suspicious or not. So looking at sender fingerprint, looking at links and URLs, looking at has this been seen before in the IRONSCALES community, and then they can use that to quickly remove that piece of mail out of your environment. And they do group all affected mailboxes into a single incident, which is huge. The other thing that IRONSCALES is going to do, they're going to crowdsource their threat intelligence. So there's a feature called IRONSCALES Community And what this does is they use a globally driven threat database to flag phishing emails that may have been seen by other people using the solution. So if there's a phishing attack that is sent all over the world, it's been blasted to everyone, IRONSCALES has seen it before, they will block that before it hits your organization. So they're using democratized threat intelligence is what they call it. That's the IRONSCALES community. Furthermore, IRONSCALES has pioneered a virtual security analyst. Essentially, this is doing automatic classification of email. Talk more about that in a little bit. And they are doing malware and attachment sandboxing with their solution as well at the mailbox level. So a lot of features packed into this. I want to break them down in a little bit more detail, and I do want to show you them in action. But IRONSCALES is going to deliver a security solution much better tailored to responding to the phishing threats today than your traditional email security gateways. And in combination, there is one more thing I'd like to add. IRONSCALES does have a phishing education component. So you can use it to send out simulated phishing campaigns to your end users and test their ability to respond to phishing attacks, simulated phishing attacks. See who may be at risk, see who's clicking on potentially phishing attacks. All right, so at this point, I do want to transition over to the demo. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I do want to transition to my Outlook client. Just give me one sec. Okay. All right. So I've now transitioned to my Outlook client. Can you guys see that? I want to show you the solution in action. So here is I have my legitimate mailbox here. Here's a demo mailbox that I want to show. So I've actually sent an email. I've actually copied and pasted a Wikipedia page here, and I've sent it to this test mailbox. Now, what you'll see in my Outlook client, one of the features that I have is a report phishing button. And so this allows end user driven reporting as well. Now, most of the time, IRONSCALES AI is going to automatically flag or identify suspicious or malicious mail, but it does still allow you as an end user to report something that's suspicious. And so I do want to demonstrate that. So here's something I sent earlier this morning. Let's go ahead and hit this report phishing button. Okay. With a click of a button, it's been reported successfully. And now that's actually opened an incident within the IRONSCALES platform, which I'm going to pivot to here. And so I'll bring that over. So here is the IRONSCALES platform. Right now, we're just at the home dashboard. This is showing me reporting on any open incidents, any emails that have been resolved as phishing, spam, or safe over time frames that I can specify here. Just some activity feeds, what licensing I have active, how my users have done in their recent phishing campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. But what I really want to show you is the resolution center. Okay, and so this is where when a email is reported, it's going to show up here in the resolution center. And so here we have actually just came in right here. This is the one that I just reported in my Outlook client. And you'll see I have, oh, bring it back here. All this forensic information on this attack. I want to bring over both here. It's now under my open incidents, and I can see a lot of information. So I can see it was reported by an end user. I can see who was reported by, the sender fingerprint, where it was sent from, what is the reputation. I can see if this has been seen before in the IRONSCALES community. Obviously, this is our demo account. I just sent this, so no real data there. For this case, I can see the headers, the bodies of the email. So code bearers will be using all this information to analyze if a email is indeed suspicious. You can see here where they're scanning all the links using a number of different engines. And then at the very bottom, I can also see any attachments and all the affected mailboxes. In this case, only one. Now, with a click of a button, I can mark this as a phishing attack. And watch closely here on the left-hand side. When it's marked as classified as a phishing attack, we're not going to need to add any reason there. Would give it a second. It drops down into active incidents, which means it's been classified, and now that's been removed right out of the inbox, which is a huge differentiator for IRONSCALES from the inline gateways. So all it takes is a click of a button or leveraging IRONSCALES AI to automatically classify that phishing attack as malicious. So want to demonstrate that ability, click of a button, I can remove phishing attacks out of the inbox across all the mailboxes in my organization. In addition, I can automate it such that above a certain threshold, I can have IRONSCALES automatically removing attacks before they hit the inbox. And if there were any malicious links or attachments, IRONSCALES would actually block that pre-delivery. So there are a number of layers of protection here with IRONSCALES that suit it very well for phishing attacks. So the next thing I did want to show you would be the, well, some other things here. They also just added an account takeover feature. So IRONSCALES, because it has that API access, it also has the ability to monitor the behavior of legitimate email accounts. So under email incidents, I'm blocking attacks from illegitimate accounts, illegitimate senders, but account takeover actually is monitoring legitimate user accounts, looking for suspicious behavior that may indicate a business email compromise attack. So these are attacks where a malicious actor gains access to a user account and then starts to spam phishing attacks internally. IRONSCALES now has a protection mechanism for that as well, something you're not going to see with a secure email gateway. So protecting both from attacks externally and internally in your organization. Next, I want to pivot here to threat assessment. So I talked about how IRONSCALES is going to also provide an element of education for your end users. So with a few clicks, I can create a phishing campaign, and you may design these in conjunction with the CodeBears team. I can choose the participants, whether it's my entire company or groups within a company, when I want to launch it, and then I would come here and choose from a number of pre-configured scenarios. Amazon gift card is an example. Security breach. They had COVID-19 vaccine templates. So a whole lot of templates that you can use here and send out to your end users and see if they do click on these phishing attacks. And if they do, it can be used as a learning experience, right? The idea here is not to get people in trouble, but see who may be subject to phishing attacks and then provide some degree of training, which IRONSCALES provides here through short little video trainings on what to look for with social engineering attacks, spoofing emails, et cetera, et cetera. So I can provide that level of education with the threat assessment component of IRONSCALES. Last but not least, there's some really great reporting. So here under my company, I can come to threat protection and I can see all of the inspected emails, how many of those were reported as incidents, and then what were they classified as. There are 3 classifications that you can use: safe, spam, or phishing. And those would either be classified automatically through the AI or through a security analyst determination, as I just showed in the resolution center. But I can see which links were stopped on delivery, looking at the URL or attachments, and then what was resolved post-delivery, automatically or by an analyst. And I can see other information like who are the top 5 analysts, the most targeted employees in your organization, the top reporters, and other statistics here that may be pertinent that you guys would want to see, how IRONSCALES is protecting your organization. I can also choose different time frames with which I want to see. So some great reporting on protection there, and same thing with the phishing simulation. I can see how my organization has done over a period of time using these phishing simulations to improve their awareness and get end users in the habit of using that report phishing button here in the Outlook client. So essentially, if they did get a simulated phishing attack, they would just go ahead and click on that report phishing button, and then that would say, hey, this was an exercise, good job, you've passed. So it's a fairly straightforward solution, very easy to set up, about 5 minutes, integrates into 365 or G Suite, and uses both end user reporting and AI intelligence to identify those phishing attacks and respond to them in real time at machine speed. So hope that was informative. I know we see what we have here for time. I want to leave some time for questions at the end. I know we're kind of coming towards the end, about 10 minutes left. So I do want to open it up to any questions that you guys may have at this point.
Yes, please type any questions in the chat window if you have them.
Has anybody experienced a phishing attack or have a client that has experienced calculated targeted phishing attack? Yeah,
Roy,
exactly, absolutely.
absolutely.
Roy, tell us about that. What happened?
Well, over the last few years, I mean, we've had different ones. We've got some things that catch them. People report them. I mean, let's see, we had one just the other day. But we did have one a couple of years ago where it was one of those where it said, go out and buy these cards at Walmart. I need these cards. And they actually got one of our people to go and purchase some and give them the numbers because he had done it before for his boss. But we get them every so often, and you know, they're just people know enough to look at them and check them, and we've got Mimecast, so that catches some of them and stops them. But yeah, it happens, definitely.
Well, some of them too, just it goes to, you know, some of them are more sophisticated than the diamonds from Nigeria, right? I mean, the diamonds are not coming. A lot of people keep clicking on it thinking that they might be, but they're really not gonna.
Yeah, some of these that come are extremely well done.
Well, one of the ones that Mason and I like to talk about, or we don't like to talk about because it's unfortunate, but this is not just for large. In fact, smaller companies are targeted more than larger organizations. And as an example, you know, these, you know, we call them the black hats, right? But, you know, they're not actually wearing black hats, by the way. Although maybe some of them are. But, you know, these are just people in a coffee shop, right? They're looking on Facebook. They know who the CEO is of, or the owner of a small company. We had an incident like that here in Colorado, you know, 40-person company or whatever. They know who the owner is. Their Facebook page was open. They knew they were going to be, you know, out of town, and they did the same thing with the, hey, send the gift card. Give me the numbers for gift cards. I'm in Hawaii, right? And they, you know, they spoofed the email address, and the owner was in Hawaii, and they got, you know, several $1,000s in gift card. But the bigger one is that one of our partners on the East Coast, they, similar situation. I think the owner was maybe, the owner was out of town, but they sent a message saying, effective starting next month on this, the AP cycle, please route your payments to this new bank account. They even had a signature on file somewhere, maybe in the trash or who knows where, from this owner. And several months later, their AP folks told, or the AR folks said, hey, we haven't been paid in almost no one paid us on time last month, and we haven't received anything this month. And they reached out, and that email that went out with the signature, with the signed form and everything, all those payments went to the Black Hat's account, and that company did go out of business after being in business for almost 100 years.
That's crazy.
So, the cash flows on companies like that might not be several months, right? Especially during these times with COVID and everything, can be disastrous, but it's a real thing. But just imagine how powerful it can be if you protect your company and your clients to make sure that never happens to them. It's not a conversation you really want to have with your staff or your clients that somebody in the company clicked on a bad email or just made a bad human choice, and now you're out of business. And bad actors don't look at it as they're doing something wrong. They look at it as you did something wrong. You didn't protect yourself, and we took your money. So it's pretty scary. It's not trying to scare anybody, other than just saying, just like you might lock your door at night when you're out of town. You might want to make sure that your staff and are educated about how to prevent these types of scenarios. But I see Jeffrey has a question around MFA.
Yes, we'd like to read the question for the recording too. So, how does MFA factor in with phishing protection? If we use MFA, haven't we significantly reduced our risk and don't need to make additional investment in the phishing tool?
Jeffrey, it's a very good question. MFA is a foundational piece of security that I recommend everyone have in place. I'm glad to hear that you've done that. But MFA is going to protect against one type of attack. That's business email compromise. Essentially, MFA protects your user accounts. When someone tries to access their account, they're then required to input an additional piece of information, right? Whether it's a code or some other thing. So that is going to protect against a bad actor accessing a legitimate user account and then sending out phishing emails from within, but it does nothing to stop a malicious actor from impersonating someone else. Anyone can go out and create a Gmail account or a AOL account and then have the same display name as a CEO. MFA does nothing to stop that. And that's the majority of the type of attacks you're going to see. Business email compromise can be so devastating because it is coming from a legitimate user. And so MFA does protect against that, but any external sender is not going to run into MFA just by emailing you. Does that make sense?
And just for everyone's information, MFA stands for multi-factor authentication.
But I think that's a great question, Jeffrey, and thanks for that explanation, Mason. When you think about security, and Mason reminds, there's almost everybody in all the conversations we have, I'm sure maybe you had at the beginning here too, but it's a layered approach, right? So think about your home, right? And let's call your home a castle, right? You might have a moat on the outside, right, protecting it so that people don't cross it, right? That's, your basic security. Not that everybody has a moat, but then you have a front door. Okay, somebody could come in the front door, but you also have windows, right? And then what if somebody gets inside the house, right? So, if you have like at a nightclub, you might have a bouncer, right? Keeping people out that are underage or suspicious, but once they get inside the club, what if they act up then what? So there are different solutions like an IRONSCALES, which is, looking inside the box for those bad actors. So this is, we're talking about IRONSCALES today. I think we have more lunch and learns the next couple weeks where we'll talk about other solutions. This one is, IRONSCALES is really for addressing, the human behavior, number one, and then, using those tools effectively for remediation if something is identified or does sneak in. If you want to add anything to that, Mason.
No, I'd say it's a great analogy, David. Yeah, the security and layers. IRONSCALES addresses that security layer at the mailbox. That's where they are, and you can actually use a solution in conjunction with a gateway. You can have a pre-delivery filter, like if you're using Mimecast today, and then IRONSCALES we put in place for that post-delivery detection and response. And that's what makes such a great solution, is you can put it in place with your existing stack. They really have innovated this mailbox level approach. There's a lot of imitators out there, but IRONSCALES, their detection mechanisms, their AI on the back end really is unmatched when you look at the competitive landscape. And they've successfully combined a AI-driven approach with end-user education and reporting. Traditionally, those things have been segmented. You might have a gateway, which is your technical approach, and you'd have some security awareness training. IRONSCALES has brought those pieces together to combine end-user reporting with AI, with automated response and human-driven response to really provide, in my eyes, the best platform against the phishing attacks out there today. This probably has the highest retention rate of any product that we sell. So, anyway, I know we're at time. I want to thank you all for your attention today. Hopefully that was informational and informative. But if any questions come up, definitely reach out to the CodaBears team or myself. I'm looking forward to our next session. I think we're talking endpoint protection and EDR around SentinelOne next week. So hopefully see you all then.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mason and David. Look forward to your next presentations.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a great week, end of week and weekend.